My name is Konrad Czernik, and I come from Poland. And I was working in Techland for 11 years now, and I still do. And this is some provocative subject for today. And my first question is, how many artists do we have here? Not so many. That's quite good. And how many managers? Cool. It's 50-50. You're going to fight in the answer. But that's not my main purpose. So this presentation is not an official statement of Techland. It's just my loose thoughts that I gathered after 10 years of experience working with artists. And in the end, I will answer, in my opinion, is it nightmare or not? But actually, this is just a loose presentation, so don't treat it completely seriously. I just want to bring some topics for discussion. If you wanted to talk about this, I will rush up a little bit in the beginning just to have a Q&A session more spectacular. So, I was working on many games before. There is a Call of Juarez series that I was doing in the beginning, Dead Island series, and Hellraid, which was my main child. I was doing that for 3 years, and actually we didn't release this game, and it was fantasy game, and I learned a lot from this project because doing fantasy is not an easy thing. If you guys want to start doing fantasy, it's not easy at all. Everyone thinks they know how to make the fantasy game, but it's not so easy. Making setting, consistency, and efficiency of the features is so wide subject that it was very teaching for me. Also, when I was tired by gore games like Dead Island and other, which is of course Dying Light, which is the most recognizable title of Techland. I've started doing cartoonish iOS games. A few of them are here also. This is Dead Stop, Sugar High, Collider. There were a few more, but it was nice switching and working in different artistic teams and different developer teams. And actually, the story that is very interesting is behind this little image in the corner. It's a Warhound game. I guess that no one of you can remember those trailers. It was like 9 years ago, I think. It was my first game that I was working when I got to Techland, and it was about mercenary. It was a realistic game back then, closer to a dream of a mercenary who is flying around the world and fighting and killing people for money, usually bad people, in different settings. So it was a very big challenge for me back then to design all the environments 10 years ago when, as you know, technical constraints were very, very tough. And doing Amazonia, Colombia, Africa, Europe, and what else was there? Even Siberia. It was very difficult for me and for the team, and I know I was a pain in the ass back then. So I didn't consider myself as an artist, never before. I always looked on me as an artisan, like a craftsman. I was very dedicated to the technical skills of proper drawing. My background is a comic book, and I was drawing since I was 7. As every one of you, I was drawing when as a kid, so I thought it's in common thing. And actually, yes, this is my piece. That's what I do. Sometimes I'm just kidding, but actually I did it. But it's not my best opus magnum, but kind of. And funny thing about gore things, I was drawing very brutal things always. And when I was 7, my parents was called to the school because when the subject was draw woods with the animals. I drew woods in flames and flaming animals in flames. So they thought there's something wrong with my family and my house, and actually they came to school, and the teacher was very surprised at this normal family. So I didn't expect after 15 years I'm going to do just the same thing and get a job in game development and getting paid for gore games and destroyed bodies in that island, for instance. But my background is very artistic, so I finished Academy of Fine Arts, High School of Art, and still didn't consider myself as an artist because I thought I'm an artisan who is doing good job drawing things. Actually, my dreams were working on Disney or Miyazaki or Pixar studio. Miyazaki, of course, I mean Studio Ghibli, and I was doing sculptures, so my background is very artistic. So I know I was pain in the ass for the designers whenever I come to our company, because my expectations were very high according to games. I didn't know about technical constraints back then, and my tolerance was very low. So I know I was struggling a lot and expecting the best quality. And 10 years ago, 11 years ago, there was so many constraints from technical side. So this presentation will take a few parts. One of this is just talking about people and stereotypes. So when you think about artists, it's some stereotypes like men in a beret with the paints, with the canvas, and of course very brave and cheeky and bitchy. And actually, that's very true, how it looks in industry, because we are divas. We are people who doesn't give who doesn't have a big distance to the things that we do, and actually we treat everything personally and very emotionally. And I think it's very common thing in game development in general, because whatever you do, you have to dedicate to that much. You dedicate to your ideas, and getting feedback and changing things is not a common thing, because as I said in my background or any artistic background, they teach us to be individuals. And actually here in the industry, we need to be team members. So it's a totally opposite thing than individually. And game development is just amazing field. So I'm very happy that we all are working in this field, because it's the best field ever, because it's just impossible to connect programmers, designers, and artists in one room, and they are actually doing something, and they talk and they get to communicate with each other. So the only thing to achieve creativity and this efficiency is investing in people and communicating. So what helps us a lot when we are doing games is the same goals, the thinking about the same results that we want to achieve actually in the end. And in Techland, as in many other companies, maybe you know, we're trying to flat the structure, because before it was very widespread between doers and, let's say, management. And right now we're trying to flat the structure, because everyone is valuable, and actually all the ideas comes from the designers, which are actually doers. And I see myself as a doer as well right now. I'm a lead concept artist, and I just got back to the team and actually do whatever I do the best, so draw. Because working in the decision field is not the efficient way. It's just a theory. So the other thing we did is tweaking pipelines. So whenever you want to achieve something in the best efficiency. It's to have a very readable pipeline where we are, how to achieve the best goals, how to organize work. Sometimes write even the processes, and it helped us to make a kind of company culture of creativity. I like to call it a creative sanctuary. But people hate this expression. I'm not surprised. So, part for an artist, it's whoever we hire is a professional, but professionalism is divided by two things. It's soft skills and hard skills. And of course, everyone who has nice portfolio has those hard skills. But the thing is very difficult for artists is those soft skills, which is communication, which is agility, which is open for feedback, which is ability to change your first idea, which is what is very important. And actually, what artists think we want, is a freedom of creation. It's completely false, because whenever you have blue sky and widespread, no scope, it's very difficult to design something. So if you have the big scope is the worst environment to make something creative, and I tell it after a few years of experience. So if you don't have a don't have a scope, any range, any brief, ask ask questions, provoke discussions, and actually start doing something, little thing. And what helps me a lot in working in team is do some little sketches and then talk over them, just not polishing everything till the end. And that's what that's opposite example. The opposite example of person who is waiting for a documentation, complete documentation, is Mr. Office. I call this guy who is waiting for the briefs or whole set of the world and all, I don't know, describing all environments, characters, storyline, features, everything, and then want to start working it. And actually, that's another difficult artist to work with. So what I completely recommend to do is to do something in the beginning and then start talking and to communicate about the features, about the goals that we want to achieve. And actually, concept art, as my field, is a very difficult thing because everyone thinks it's a more artistic illustration or kind of things. And if you type in Google concept art, you'll see mostly illustrations. That's completely false, because concept art is very ugly images which are made in 5 or 10 minutes sometimes. And in the end, we tweak them until the end just to look like you see on the internet. So I don't know who is responsible for that, not me, but actually it's another thing that people who are coming into the industry, they think they will do that kind of things. So I'm sharing this knowledge now. It's not, because concept art is completely different thing. It's designing, it's sketching, it's making rough sketches, brainstorming, and designing actual elements which are sometimes ugly, according to the artistic things. And also, concept art is very difficult because the knowledge, which is very rare in internet. I see so many tutorials how to draw, how to paint, and actually not too many of them how to design elements. That's a very difficult thing. There are few YouTube channels, few schools which are teaching how to design things, and actually our responsibility as an artist is to share this knowledge as well. So. And actually, Dalai Lama said, sharing knowledge is the only way to achieve immortality, and that's the sign in our company, and I love this sentence because it's the only way you can actually stay immortal, because you're mirroring whatever you learned from different previous generations, and that's a beautiful thing in art. And managers, very often what artists hear from managers is to do something faster, and faster doesn't mean smarter, and work smarter is the thing that we want to do. We don't want to work faster, because when you work fast, you make mistakes. But working efficient way is good thing. So actually, using your skills to achieve the best effects. It could be rough sketches, which is kind of fast, but it's smart. It's good solution, but polishing faster your illustration is not good solution. So working faster is not good feedback for artists as well. And I don't want to keep artists as on the pedestal like the most important people in the industry, but they're difficult, and smashing them on their back is not a good way to motivate them. Actually, that's what I learned, very hard lessons during those years. And actually, what helps me as an artist whenever I meet with managers, with the producers, designers, whoever is purchaser of my tasks, is bright criteria and bright expectations. So naming your expectations is very important things. And talking about goals, not effects, which is a slightly different thing, is a very crucial thing. There is one website, Hoovering Art Directors. I completely didn't recommend to see those little pictures out there. And those are pictures, managers standing over the artist, pointing the screen and pixel pushing a little bit things. So there are so many photos of people standing over the artist and pointing, what should I change? So actually, that's not the way we should work, and pixel pushing comes from unbright criteria and bad briefs, actually. And actually, there is one expression, one story that is very uncommon. And I saw a situation when sound effects artist was talking with the producer, and producer told him he was imitating the explosions by his mouth, how they should sound like. And actually, I was laughing on the side, because I knew if this sound designer is going to make this sounds like he is saying, they will not be happy of that at all. And the same thing said Michael Esdale, which is owner of Voice Recording Studio, who had presentation on Game Access 3 weeks ago, I think. And he's working with actors, and managers imitating the voices or moves it's very silly move, because actor looking at you and you're pretending the moves, he will do just the same thing, because his tools, his body is so good in that, so he will just repeat whatever you do. So it's better to talk about impression or the effect of the goal of the animation or the sound that actors should make, than pretending to knowing what you do, what do you want, actually. So that's kind of funny thing. And right now, a few tips and hints. Communication is the most important thing for me. So respect is very, very important thing. And actually, whenever we start doing something, we try to arrange some platform of communication. In our company, there was our rough sketches and how to communicate. Is it every day? Is it every hour? Is it every week? Every month? For sure not. It should be some more often thing. And actually, it's all depends of the people. Some people like to talk every day. Some people do like talk every week. But some of them doesn't like to talk at all. So I completely recommend to talk as often as you can. And asking for a bigger context, bigger image is one of the responsibilities of the artist. And actually what we do is paraphrase whatever we understand from manager. And even doing meetings, I don't know how about you guys, but meetings are evil for me, because I'm spending so much time on meetings. And whenever we agree on meeting, I'm sure we are not, because making these notes in the end or making rough sketches just after the meeting, it proves that we weren't agree at all. So provoke discussion, but make some wrap up in the end of the every meeting, or after the giving the brief. Ask your artist, does he understand what's the main goal? Because talking about goals is the most important thing, as I observed. And giving feedback. Whenever I see some manager is approaching me, I know he's going to tell me what's wrong with my piece. And actually, recently we hired a few new managers, and I was very surprised when one of them approached me just to say what he likes in my pieces, and just came back to his desk. It was the first time that I had that kind of situation after 9 years. So actually that was very motivating for me. And there is a theory of appreciating 5 times to one negative things, one negative thing. It's a very difficult thing, but it's good to start by 50-50, because people are not too kind to each other. So I completely recommend to be kind and saying what you actually like, because if you say only what you don't like, people will get frustrated. And of course, giving feedback is relying to facts. It's not about preferences. It's all about the criteria that are in the brief. It could be brief touching the visual criteria. It could be scale, it could be weight of enemy, or range, speed, agility, and that could be gameplay measurable elements that you can measure through the image that you see. Or it could be emotional. What emotion should it bring? And it could be fear, confusion, admiration, or disgust, or mawkish. And actually what we were doing during presentation, during developing that island, we were finding different emotions for different enemies, and every zombie was different because of that criteria, different emotional impact. So it helped us a lot to talk about what we want to achieve. In the theory, every artist in the beginning, the rookie, wants to work on this left pipeline, presenting one image, then getting feedback, and then publishing it till the end. In the real life, it should be like this in the middle, but in the end, it works like this. So giving feedback to one piece is a never-ending story. So my preference of working with the artist is to make many rough sketches, pick few which are completely different, and tweak them a little bit, just to show, actually we're communicating on every stage here, and this process is like 4 times faster, because you have everything in one day. This should be, the bottom line, it should be one day, and so many sketches in one day. It's possible, because you guys know each other, you know how you work, what's the main goal, and actually you can feedback that before that final illustration thing. And outsource. So whenever, it's the most difficult way of working with artists, because you don't know who you work with, you don't know people, you don't see them, you don't hear them. So writing emails is the harsh thing that I needed to learn, because whenever I was answering emails, giving feedback to artists that we work with, my friend was complaining about my harsh feedback. Gosia Mitrenga, who is responsible for outsource in our company. The reason was I don't use emoticons, and I had to work so much more. You should know who you work with. Is it AlphaStar? Is it regular graphic? And actually appreciate him before you start working. Try to tell him why do you work with him, what is he good in, and don't lose those things, and actually add some other things, because people are changing everything. So that's very helpful, and proper scope. If you don't have agreement before, or you don't have measurable effects like milestones, like stages of work that they should send before the end, it's very frustrating for you and them. And actually pushing the final line is the most frustrating thing ever. So what helps in working in outsource are 2 things, which is tech guide. You're showing what's the technical constraints of your project, and art guide, which talks about emotions and presentation of the project. So those two documents helps a lot with working with artists. It clears the environment a lot, you know. And creativity, you know, of course, there should be creativity. And my solution for burnout and keeping creative is to creativity comes with the constraints. It's never good when you have blue sky field and actually you have to draw something, you know, surprise me. No, it's not good thing. Maybe for a brainstorming, if you don't know and no one knows and it's a pre-production, that's fine. But actually when you work on the production, constraints brings the biggest creativity because you have to find different solutions. And of course, personal projects. Putting personal projects into the company is a very efficient way of keeping people creative, because actually you see how they are creative in your company, and then for sure. For sure, they are going to like each other much more, and they're going to appreciate each other. They're going to know what's their strengths and what's their weaknesses, and you actually can invest in those strengths. And keeping people creative is one of the most effective things that we actually achieved during the last productions. So. During this creative hours or days during the week, sometimes it's 1 day per 5 days of working. So 4 days working, 1 day is creative. It could be half of day, okay. And actually you get confidence and skill and team spirit. So asking people for feedback. Like you do something personally, it's good to show it in the company. Whenever I was doing my comic books, I was showing them to my artists, and actually I got great feedback. They started to understand my aesthetics and whatever it is. So whatever you do after work, it's good to bring it to your team and actually hear what they think about this. Stress is always the classic thing. And one thing that is very stressful are changes. So the coral reefs are from the dynamic environment of the ocean are more colorful, more strong than those from the steady waters from the beach side actually. So changes are frustrating, but actually we want in theory we don't want to have a dynamic environment, but we actually work well. So avoiding bad words like a no, like it's okay, but not enough, mediocre. I try to replace them, but this part is good and invest in that. What I like is, and focus on this part is great, focus on that, you know. So this is a very, very cool thing. Personal projects, and the final thing is that we're working in the industry. So this is the most important thing whenever someone comes to work in my company, and I say that we need to artist, but in the industry. So it's everyone's responsibility to keep in a great level of creativity and being artists. So that's all. Thank you.